to our show Efauji Talks, an IESECCI initiative which promises to get inspiring stories and brilliant speakers on board each episode. I am Shavinder Kaur, the brand head of this show, and we are currently showcasing the spirit of womanhood of our Choose to Challenge series. Today on our show, we have Mrs. Aarti Gupta, a Fauji child and a Fauji wife with 33 years of experience in corporate places like India, Africa, US, and mainly in human resource talent development. Hi, and welcome to the show.
Hi, Shavi. Thank you very much for having me on your show.
Great. So before we start the discussion, let me acquaint our viewers to our guest. She is a passionate, learner, loves adventure sports and loves traveling too. She drives her purpose in life by supporting education for underprivileged women and children. She also is a partner at Pinnacle Performance Committee for India and Sri Lanka. These achievements are really commendable, Mrs. Aarti Gupta. I must appreciate for your all, achievements done during your year of life as experience.
Thank you.
Great. So when I was reading about your bio, I read that you are into the talents development, as a HR professional. So my first obvious question is, how important is communication as skill to be a successful leader,
Shavi, absolutely important. They say the art of communication is the language of leadership. And this is not what I'm saying. This is a quote from James Hughes. And I think he's really nailed it, because if you're not able to communicate, you can have the grandest vision, the most crisp plan in your head. You can be the most technically savvy person, have the best content, but at the end of the day, a vision can never be achieved by one person. You have to be able to translate that vision to others so they get inspired, they get motivated, and get on the journey with you. So I would say the one key skill, competency, quality that all good leaders have is they're all good communicators. And communication is definitely, I think, the key ingredient for successful leadership. Not just successful leadership, but being successful in life. Being a good communicator is a very, very important skill.
Indeed, because everything starts with communication, and even if when we are not talking, we are communicating. So I'm sure what you said absolutely makes sense, that if you want to be a successful leader, or for that matter, a good human being, communication skills are very important. So, further with that, what do you see as the biggest skill gaps in corporate India?
And I'm saying this, Shavi, I mean, I have been in corporate India as the global head of talent for a company as large as Capgemini in their financial services business unit. I was the group university leadership curriculum director. So I was working with leaders in, one of the top 3 consulting firms in the world. And I saw that communication was one thing that kept people from growing. And now I'm on the other side. I am the partner for a company called Pinnacle Performance. And Pinnacle is made up of people who are professional performers and who take the skill they learn as being good actors, all the frameworks, tools, etc. that they learn. They teach it to people who are in corporates so that they can become more impactful and influential communicators. So on that side, but I see one thing common, whether you're providing tools to help make people successful, or you're, in a corporate organization trying to build and develop your people, it is communication, I would say, critical because it is not something that can be, learned like a technology. You can learn how to write a code, You can learn how to kind of make something. But communication, you can know all the right things to say and do, but when you actually do it, when you actually deliver a speech, only then will you know whether you've connected with the audience and whether you've been able to translate your message, transfer it to the audience in the way you intended it to. So I work a lot with. So my role is I'm a partner for India and Sri Lanka, and it really hurts me when I see like large companies which have like a big panel process where global organizations where our Indian leaders are being evaluated in the same pool as people who have grown up and learned in the West, and our guys are and women are extremely talented, extremely bright. I mean, I'm yet to see, and I'm not saying it because I've grown up and I am an Indian, but very, very intelligent, very intelligent. You can't beat that. But the ability to articulate what you know, what you have to say, is something that is universally, not at par with how the West would communicate. And I would think a lot about it. And I realized that part of it is also our education system, what we value. While growing up, nobody tells you, hey, learn how to communicate. They say, oh, padhai karo, science padho, maths padho, so you'll be damn good at all of that. But you will be very, very scared to make a presentation. You will be very, very scared to go into like a large group and speak. So when you join corporate India, you suddenly are, put in a position where you have to communicate across cultures with large audiences, and you're not used to it. Some people, when they're thrown in the deep end, swim and they really shine because they have both. They have like the smarts and they have the ability to communicate. Some people, and the brightest of them, might just flounder because they're not able to articulate themselves well. And then they hide behind the screen of, people don't understand me. These are like all technical people. So they are like too stupid and they won't understand what I'm saying. But when we teach communication, we say that the onus of being able to get across your message, the onus of being able to communicate is with you. So communication is, I think, one key skill that is lacking in corporate India. And it's also a very hard to learn skill, if you have limited time. It only comes with practice and practice and practice and experience.
Indeed, because when we talk of communication, it is just not the sender or the receiver or the feedback. Yeah, there is so much that's involved in it, and it's a very vast topic and a very vast subject. So, moving on with the same kind of discussion, what, according to you, is the best way to teach and how to be a good communicator?
Yeah. So I'll tell you that it's not learning the language. You learn the language, you learn the letters, you learn the technology of, how to string together words and grammar and sentences. But it is the practice. So when you're learning a new language, when I was in college, third language was very compulsory. Like for most of us when we grew up in India and studied in India. So I took French. Of course, I had never talked to anybody who was French, and our teacher would try to kind of teach us. But she would always say, listen to the news, listen to, keep listening to the words so you get it, and then try speaking. So in class, we weren't allowed to speak in any other language. In the French class, you have to speak French and you would kind of use your broken French. Similarly, as you grow up and you learn how to communicate, then in a corporate situation, if we are teaching a class of say 8 hours, 2 hours, okay, so just 1/4 of the time will be spent on teaching frameworks, tools, concepts. And the rest of the 6 hours are practice. Okay, so you've learned this framework. Now just imagine you're in a situation where you're like presenting to a group of people, or you're speaking one-on-one to somebody. Use that framework and craft that communication. And then we record it, play it back. So you see what you did well, what you did not do well. And so it's only, I think it's 1/4 the technology of communication, and 3/4 emphasis on, practice, 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 simulation, 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 experience, 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 and that's how you kind of get it. So then, some years ago, around 20 years ago, I was posted to the United States, and I took along with me my 9-year-old son, who was in a school in the United States. He was in a public school, and we would, I would look at his books, and I realized when he was in India, he was studying in a good convent school. He would learn, I don't know, hundreds of words in English every week, and it would be cramming a lot. And in the US, he would learn 5 words. Okay, he would learn 5 words on a Monday. Then on a Tuesday, they had to go and figure out synonyms to those 5 words. Then on a Wednesday, they had to kind of figure out opposites. Then on a Thursday, they had to piece together a crossword puzzle using those 5 words. So at first I would be very psyched. I said, oh my God, he's just learning 5 words, and there he was learning like 100 words. Did I make a mistake? Right? Bringing him along with me. And then I realized what he was learning was not the words, but how to learn new words, how to apply them in language. And that's when I realized that for good communication to be taught, for communication to be understood, you need to be able to apply. And application is a very important part of learning how to be better communicators.
So true, so true. I visited US in the year 2018, and I happened to go to one of the formative school, that kindergarten. And I, being myself an educator and a principal for about more than 10 years, I realized definitely we are here. See, I'm not comparing what we teach in India and what in US, but they definitely focus more on concept domain. That is a holistic learning of a subject. It's just not that, as you said, that you learn 100 words and then we don't know how to even apply them. So that is and thankfully the new NEP now is more on that, that you learn with practical experiential learning, hoping for some change in the system. Exactly. Yeah. So what?
Shavi, I must add here the one thing. I would see, like, when it came to maths, my son was like way ahead, because
Yes.
we're so good with maths education, and even now, and all my colleagues in the US would need a calculator to calculate, simple figures, and you would do mental maths, and they said, how did you do it? I said, well, we had to learn tables and we had to calculate. And there are some great aspects of education here in terms of content, and of course, but when it comes to application, I agree. The West, and especially with communication, they just push the children to present projects. They don't have an opportunity to have stage fright.
Exactly. That is what now the emphasis is, that learn with experiential way of learning, technical, cognitive learning, Yeah. So what is the biggest skill gap in Indian education system now that we're talking about?
Yeah, and I hope so what happened was through Pinnacle, one of my dreams was, and I see this I saw it in corporate India, I would see these young, bright students from campuses come in, and very, very brainy. We used to pick the best and the brightest from these campuses. But the moment you put them in a global situation, they would be nervous. They would not know how to communicate. And, it takes, do you know how long it takes for somebody to form an impression about you? First impression? Just 7 seconds.
7 seconds.
And these kids would just not be able to capitalize on those 7 seconds, and somebody else who may not even have half the content knowledge or the brightness that these kids have would come in and first 7 seconds, like really introduce themselves smartly and, talk like very knowledgeably about something. And these kids would like just be like, overshadowed. So my dream was to take the content that we have. And Pinnacle is like the company that I partner with. They have some great communication techniques. They have some great communication tools. But of course, corporates can afford it. The Indian student is, the cost of it is prohibitive. So I was chatting with, and I hope Shrikant Sinha sometime gets to kind of see this. He was the chairman at that time of NASSCOM Foundation, and NASSCOM Foundation had been, approached by the government of India to come up with some, skill building programs. The whole reskilling program, the initial part of it was, they did a lot of work on it. And I asked Kant, I said, what is it that is a price point that will be affordable to our Indian college students? And he said, Aarti, $50. And since then, it was my dream to come up with something that would cost that amount, which was like, 1/8 of what we would charge like a corporate for like one individual. We were able to turn it around, and we did come up with something that we launched like about 2 months ago through Pinnacle Academy. And this addresses this one skill that I think is like really, really lacking in, our students. And it's not their fault. There is so much of content in our education system that there is no time or emphasis on communication or even practicing communication. And then suddenly, the best and the brightest suddenly get nervous because your first encounter with the need to be like a good communicator is when you interview. You have on-campus placements and you're competing with everybody and the interviewer has a short amount of time to make up his or her mind about whether you're a suitable candidate or not. Everybody is smart, everybody is bright, everybody has all the technical knowledge. So how do you differentiate yourself? And how do you, convey all your qualities in that short span of time and make a mark on the interviewer? So I think communication is the ability to, I'll go a step further than communication, the ability to influence others, knowing how to kind of be an impactful communicator, knowing how to translate the knowledge that you have in your head so that others understand it too, so that others are, impressed with what you know. That is a skill, that is a life skill that we don't, teach in our education system. And fine, even if you don't teach it, that's all right. But there needs to be some sort of emphasis on it, some sort of there are campuses, there are a lot of professional institutes where they have a lot of extracurricular activities and, children get to practice in the extracurricular forum. But I think if things like emotional intelligence, how to, communicate with empathy, all of these were part of our education system, children would grow up with life skills. There would be like a shorter gap or better bridge between the campus and corporate, because in corporate you're suddenly prone to the sharks. There are thousands of people, you're the young newbie on on the block, and you're expected to just know everything, pick up everything and start working. And how do you do it? You're not prepared, you don't have the skills to cope with that. So I think some sort of life skill around communication, around empathy, around, especially now when attention spans are shorter, you have lower, shorter times to kind of get across your message. Something around the art of communication, not the language, but the art of communication.
Yes, very aptly briefed and explained, because for me I feel it is more of an art than a science to understand communication. And as you said, the image is formed in few seconds. So because people listen with their eyes, because we speak with our parents, so that's where things make difference, and we don't realize that what are we communicating. And even people with multiple degrees, they fail to communicate, and that's where many things happen, and history is example for that. The world wars were reason for communication gaps only. So then it goes, absolutely it goes there. So yeah, so when we're talking about education system and the values, something like skills, what I feel is not only emotional intelligence, decision making, conflict resolution. If children at that age only understand how to, I'm sure they will excel in their life, because most of the time we know the skill, the job which exists now may not even exist after 5 years, but the skill which is there will only help you to sail through.
Absolutely.
So all these things really matters a lot. So according to you, what should a student or a young professional focus on to build a successful career?
So I think there are like three things that they need to that any child needs to have, and I think anybody in the industry for a good career. One is, and this is once you've decided which field you want to be in. One is the technical knowledge in that field, whether it's the automobile industry, whether it's to be a doctor, whether it's to be an engineer, whether it's to be an IT professional. Just knowing the technical content, and in my mind, that technical content. So just I'm going to use a metaphor of going abroad, because I'm sure everybody loves travel and everybody loves to travel overseas. So the technical content that you know that is relevant for the industry you've chosen is like your passport. Okay? But you know, and I know that just a passport is not enough to go anywhere overseas. What do you need after the passport? I need a visa. And as having grown up as an Indian, you need a visa for almost all the 190 plus countries that exist in the world. So your visa is your domain knowledge or the knowledge of the industry you're in. So for example, if I'm in the automobile industry, or let's say if I'm in the IT industry, the technology industry, knowing my Java, knowing my mainframes, knowing all the languages, the technical languages is not enough. If I'm working for a project in the financial services business, or I'm working for a project in the retail industry, I need to know how I can write code so that this client of mine who's in the retail industry benefits through a solution I have provided. So let's say I'm working for a bank. For the bank, what is the most important thing? To be able to service your customers quickly. So your productivity is high, the customer satisfaction rate is high. So can I write code? So if I understand that for the bank, the most important thing is, the time it takes to service a customer, I will be able to write the code for reducing that time. But if I don't understand that industry, I might be the best Java professional, but I will not even know what I use this Java code to kind of help the industry. So that's my visa, my domain knowledge. But you're still not done there, because just with the passport and visa, I can't go anywhere. I need my ticket. My ticket is my final gateway to wherever I want to be. So your ticket is what I call leadership skills. And the leadership skills are everything that we discussed, decision making, being a good communicator, being able to influence others, getting people to look up to you and follow you. I think those are all leadership skills. So to be a good professional, my message to everybody who is looking at this video and looking for insights, your technical knowledge of whatever you want to be is your passport. Your understanding of the industry you want to be in is your visa, and your leadership skills, irrespective of what industry you're in, your leadership skills, your ability to communicate, your ability to make decisions is your ticket. And if you have all these three, nothing can stop you from being successful in whatever field you choose.
That's so wonderful way of explaining. I'm going to use these examples for my presentations. That's really nice. And great. While this is a Fauji talk show, and so I must ask you, being a Fauji wife and myself as well, how do you compare a Fauji kid with others, and what skill sets set them apart?
So I think Fauji kids are always, if I'm looking, at a room and I'm in an external environment, you can at once make out like the Fauji kids. If there are some Fauji kids, they're very easy to spot. And it's very hard for me to explain how, why. I think the confidence, the way they carry themselves, the way they speak, sets them apart. And I think, having grown up as a Fauji kid myself and being a Fauji wife, I think there are 2-3 things that we learn very early on in life. One is to just plug and play wherever you go. Wherever you go, you figure out how to make friends. You figure out how to kind of figure out, what is most important to the people around you, and fit in, communicate with them, connect with them. I think that's a great skill. The second great skill is to just appreciate diversity. Very often when you grow up in a cocoon, you grow up with, in the same place, having the same set of friends, you're very unaccepting of anything that is different from what you're used to. Whereas the only thing that's a constant for Fauji kids is diversity. One day you're in Punjab, a year later you're in south of India, Tamil Nadu. A year later you will be in the east of India, Guwahati, and everything is different. All the people are different. The language is different. So the only thing you learn is appreciating diversity. And I see that even with the Fauji wives, they will go there, they will just soak in. They will learn how the food is. They will understand, the saris. I mean, you talk to a Fauji wife, she'll be able to tell you all the weaves and, everything from all over India. So I think 2 things that really set Fauji kids apart. One is their ability to appreciate and make diversity work for them, and 2, the ability to plug and play. So you form relationships, you form networks, and you know how to nurture them. Just forming a network is not enough because those relationships have to be nurtured, and the Fauji kids know how to nurture those relationships. So you ask the Fauji kid, wherever they go, they will always have friends in all parts of the world. So what does that do then? You can put them in any situation, in a room full of strangers, in an uncomfortable situation. They will figure out how to kind of, bring comfort and make a place for themselves most of the time. And I think that is a great skill for Fauji kids have. And I always tell parents when they're making a decision as to, very often nowadays I see more and more wives staying back for the children's education. And it's always on the tip of my tongue. And my husband says, don't you dare, tell others how to live their life. I always tell them, please travel. Because, you might think you're giving your child a better school because you're staying, in a larger city. But you're depriving them of one of the world's best teachers, which is the experience of, going to a new place and plugging and playing. So if I can, share a message with every Fauji who's listening to this, please make your kids travel with you wherever you go, because those experiences are going to be teaching them life skills that no school will ever be able to teach them.
Thank you so much, Ms. Aarti Gupta. I would love to continue with the conversation, but due to the scarcity of time, we've almost come to the end of the show. And yes, so those beautiful tips that you've given on the communication skills and how we should be good communicator, what all the do's and don'ts that we should be following. So in the end, I would just like to say achievers are not born talented, but they possess the attitude, I can do it. That's what describes about our guest today, Mrs. Aarti Gupta. Thank you once again for part of our interesting women's special series, Choose to Challenge.
Thank you, Shabi.
If you wish to share inspiring stories, please contact me at shabby@efaujitalks.com. I thank all the viewers. Please like, share, subscribe to our channel, Efauji Talks, and do not forget to put your comments on this interview that we hosted. For more interesting stories, please stay tuned. Till then, stay home, stay safe. Jai Hind.
Fauji Talks is brought to you by IESECCI, Indian Ex-Defence Service Employees Chamber of Commerce and Industries. Thanks to its vast veteran network and global and pan-India associates, IESECCI can carry out various commerce facilitations and CSR projects across India and the world. Some of IESECCI's core capability areas are Skill India, Atmanirbhar Bharat, Digital India, any ex-serviceman welfare or job program, Swachh Bharat Abhiyan related projects, telemedicine and healthcare training and job scheme, Save Water scheme, defence industry SME, MSME cluster and hub development, maritime training and inland water training with job facilitation, Canada study, job and permanent residency opportunity, e-commerce, Andaman and Nicobar commerce opportunities. IESECCI's global reach includes countries like Indonesia, Slovakia, Canada, Nepal, Singapore, Rwanda, USA, UK. Above all, it is IESECCI's effort to create a veterans brand made by the veterans, for the veterans and made up of the veterans. Every Indian's support is invaluable in this journey. IESECCI is a registered society for ex-servicemen's welfare and envisions that every veteran should be a part of India's economic growth story. It is the aim of IESECCI to create an enabling commerce platform that will empower and synergize the veterans' talent pool. This is possible only with the support of entrepreneurs, businesses and consultants from civil society. All proceeds, if any, are utilized for the welfare of ex-servicemen and for public charity.